Hey guys, Michael the DC Multiverse Collector here. Really excited to bring you my first review of 2024, and today I'll be having a look at the McFarlane Collector Edition Wonder Woman in the DC Multiverse line. Now, I've got to say, it feels really awesome to be reviewing a figure again because, honestly, the last couple of weeks or the last week or so has just been talking about prices and price increases and theorizing and all that stuff that's not really related to toys themselves. So it's really great to have this in hand. I've been excited for this for a very long time. I know a lot of you have been. I know that this has been out in the United States for a while. It's just hitting Australian stores now. So this is my time to shine. It's my time to finally get my hands on this, frankly, incredible looking classic, well, semi-classic, we'll get to that, looking Wonder Woman. I think she looks great in package, and first impressions when I got this is, look at all the stuff in the box. This is a collector edition, it's more expensive, we've talked about that to death, but I can happily say that when you sort of look at everything in the box, my first thought is, it's stacked. This feels special, let's see if it actually is. So having a look at the box, you'll see we've got that tinfoil McFarlane Collector Edition, Wonder Woman. On the side, there's a bit to have a look at. You'll see that she's number 10 in the Collector Edition line. I do have 7, 8, and 9 being Captain Carrot, Superman and Crypto, and Green Lantern Batman. I'll be reviewing those soon. I wanted to start with Wonder Woman because she was my most anticipated figure of this sort of recent batch of Collector Editions. You'll see it says Wonder Woman from the miniseries Who is Wonder Woman? That's the ostensible source material. I think that was a miniseries from the early 2000s, 2005 or 6 or something like that, around that time. So it's fairly modern, that story. And we'll have a look at the back here. And there's some pretty beautiful art of Diana Prince Wonder Woman. Anyway, I'm pumped, you're pumped. Before I open the box and have a look at this excellent looking figure, I want to say a big thanks to Head Start Toys and McFarlane Toys for sending me this sample for review. So without any further ado, let's crack this box open and let's have a look at all these awesome looking accessories we get. Okay guys, I've opened her up, I've put everything you get in the box out on the table, and my initial impression is that I'm super impressed. I fiddled around with the figure, I've looked at the accessories, and my overall impression is that for the first time, there's a collector edition figure that actually feels like it's worthy of the moniker collector edition. I'm not going to say it's worth the price, I'm not going to tell you what's worth the price or not, but for me, this feels like, well, if you're going to have sort of a more premium product that you're going to call collector edition or deluxe or whatever it is, this is really what we should be talking about on a number of levels in terms of sculpting, paint, accessories. This feels like the complete deal. You know, there are some things I would have liked, but let's get into that one by one. First off, let's look at the boring stuff. Standard DC Multiverse display stand. We've seen it a zillion times. The collector edition version has a DC logo in silver paint. Very boring, but you know, nice to have. Next, we have the card stand, which come with all these collector editions, and these things are utterly pointless. As for the card itself, it features very nice art. Diana Prince with that foil writing down the side. I think it's really nice. And on the back, we have the data file. You can pause that if you want to have a read. Where do we start? Right, hands. McFarlane has been doing really well with his alternate extra hands lately, and this is no exception. So in addition to her fist and grippy hand that comes in the box, we also get a fist and grippy hand for the alternate hands. So there they are, quite nice. And we get two sort of, what would you call them? Gesture hands, splayed out gesture hands, which are both pretty nicely sculpted. Nothing mind-blowing, but great to have. So good job, McFarlane. Really love the options you are giving us with all the extra hands lately. Next, we get Wonder Woman's shield. Now, this is really nicely molded. There's some sort of nice detail there. It's sort of an interesting shape. It's not quite a perfect circle. That might be comic accurate, but it kind of feels like it should be a perfect circular shape, but it's just not. And you'll see on the back, there is a strap to slip her arm through, and this sort of, I think it is gold paint. Just beautiful looking metallic gold paint that really pops against that sort of molded silver plastic. So, looks really nice. Next, we have Diana's sword. Now, I think this is also really nice. I think that is molded silver plastic with gold paint on the hilt. And it is, you'll see here, beautifully sculpted. Yeah, just really beautiful. It's bendy, but it's not like flimsy and cheap looking. Overall, I think that looks really, really good. She also comes with a battle axe. This is just molded plastic here. It would have been nice if this was painted, because this looks a little bit unrealistic, but it does have the beautiful gold paint all over the handle. I think it looks really nice, and it's a great extra to have. Now, the next thing really shocked me, because in all the promo images, I had seen the lasso, and I had assumed that it was a molded lasso that you hung on her belt, just molded plastic to look like simulated rope. But no, imagine my shock when I opened up the package and found that this is actual golden cord. It feels like quite a heavy-duty string, but it is just string. But it is a beautiful, beautiful gold color. It really pops, it really shines. It's hyper flexible. And I think the idea is that you could make a lasso out of it if you are talented. But if you're less talented like me and you just want to hang it on her belt, you could just wrap it up like that and hang it like so. Let's bring her in for a closer look. So, you know, oh God, that looks terrible. You know, but someone more talented with me, with a bit more time on their hands, could do something quite nice with that. But, you know, we'll have a look at that in a minute. So, in terms of accessories, I think a home run. A home run in terms of accessories. The only thing I could have asked for is an alternate head with maybe a more battle-ready face, like a snarling, more angry face. That's maybe being a bit spoiled. I think an extra head would have just put it over the edge. But what we get is certainly pretty decent, and I'm impressed. Anywho, Wonder Woman herself. Let's have a look at her and take a look at the general look, aesthetic, style of this figure. So this is not a Rebirth Wonder Woman, a New 52 Wonder Woman, that sort of classic look. It is a more classical design from that miniseries, Who is Wonder Woman. It's got the star-spangled diaper, which I really, really love. It's got this beautiful breastplate. And I think just before we get too micro and granular with the details, let's just look at her overall. I think she looks great. I think the proportions are on point, generally speaking. She's got big, sort of thundery thighs, which is kind of what you want. She's got a narrow waist, sort of a strong-looking chest. The head is sort of the right size for the body, which you can't always take for granted. I think she looks excellent. I think she looks great from the side too. There's some heft to her. She doesn't look spindly. She doesn't look thin. Some Marvel Legends figures, you look at the female figures and they just have these tiny, spindly little legs and they're just not womanly at all. This looks like sort of that Amazonian hero that we love from the comics. So, you know, from a basic macro level, you look at her, you're like, this is Wonder Woman, and she's a good-looking Wonder Woman at that. Coming in for the closer details, let's have a look at this head sculpt. It's an interesting one. It's quite nice. Like, it's quite a neutral looking face. I'd say there's something maybe a little bit dead about the eyes. That's just subjective, but I think the paint that's applied is really nicely applied. Her eyebrows look good. Her lip color is good. I just think maybe her expression is just a little bit plain. From certain angles, she looks better than others. But overall, I think it's quite a beautiful looking head sculpt. I know some other people have sort of swapped her head around for some other DC Direct and the Hasbro Marvel Legends Power Princess. I don't like any of that. This Diana just looks a little bit, I don't know, softer, I guess, a bit more feminine than some of those other ones. And it's going to be personal preference, what you like your Wonder Woman to sort of convey. Her hair is really nicely sculpted. I love the general look of it. I love the sculpt. There's a blue wash in there, which really lends it some depth. I like that a lot. And it's soft, so you can actually articulate her quite well, even though she's got that big head of hair. So we'll get to that in a minute with articulation, but that's good. Her tiara looks really nice. The paint is really beautifully applied on that tiara and the star. Her breastplate there, lots of sort of metallic red paint, just gleams and looks incredible. The gold paint all around the corset area, it just looks excellent and it's been really nicely applied. Same with the belt, and you'll see that on the pants or the underwear, the stars, the topography is really nice. They've been printed on really, really cleanly. You see some of them stretch a little bit, but like you can't really be too mad at it. They continue all the way around. It's highly consistent. So I really, really like that. I think her skin tone maybe is a little bit pale. What do you think? It's acceptable. Like I'm not mad at it. I just think maybe she could have looked a little bit a little bit peachier instead of like pink. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments about the sort of complexion of this Wonder Woman. I think it's pretty good. Coming down, her legs have got a really nice shape, thick at the thigh. The ratio of thigh to calf is about right, so her legs are sort of the right length, I think. The boots have a really nice texture in the sculpt. I love that. The boots just look great. The ball joint ankles aren't sort of sculpted, and they don't have that texture, I should say. So you lose that texture there, and they maybe don't look the greatest. And I think probably the biggest aesthetic issue is that this beautiful white paint on the boots does not travel through to the joint. So you just get that sort of interruption there where the paint doesn't flow through, and you lose that sort of clean line, which is a little bit disappointing. But yeah, overall, a really, really gorgeous looking Wonder Woman. And I know there are some detractors, but for me, this is kind of just about everything I hoped for when Todd announced he was making a classic Wonder Woman. I think he's delivered. I think this is a really fine looking figure. Now let's take a look at articulation and see how well she actually moves. So in terms of articulation, starting at the head, you'll see that Wonder Woman, despite having a beautiful luscious head of hair, can rotate 360 degrees. She has head tilt left and right, but that is impeded by the hair. So you get a little bit of sort of micro nuance and emotion from tilting it, but you're not much. She can look down about that much, pretty good. And she can't really look up just because of the hair. It's a common issue with female figures. You're sort of just limited in what you can do. And I don't really know what the solution is. This hair is about as soft as you can make it. So that's just I think it's just a trade-off that we have to accept with long-haired female figures. At the arms, she's got buttery smooth joints, I've got to say. I'm really impressed with how beautifully this figure moves. There's no stiffness, no looseness. It just moves exactly how you'd want it to move. She can do a T-pose. More than a T-pose. Her arms can come up that much. It swivels at the shoulder. So that's interesting. I thought there would be a swivel here, but there is not. So it's a swivel at the shoulder. Double jointed elbows. Standard McFarlane ball joint wrist. Back and forth, around, and side to side. It's all really, really nice. I do think here is one of the problems with the figure. It's a minor gripe, but in the butterfly, this sort of piece here that's intended to cover up the hole, depending on how you manipulate her, you can end up with situations where there's this horrible gap and you can see sort of all the engineering inside. I just think that's a bit weak. I mean, you can sort of pose it around so that it doesn't look bad, but a simple fix for that would have just been to do a piece that just, is a bit bigger, that sits in that joint a little cleaner, and you don't end up with this gappage. So that's a little bit lame, but if you're posing her, you just fix it. So it's really not a big deal. It's just one of those things that you wonder why they just didn't do the obvious fix. In terms of the waist, this is where it gets interesting. So she has no diaphragm cut or ball joint, so there's nothing happening in the torso. She can sort of, rock left and right at the waist, so that's good. She can spin 360 degrees, absolutely no problem. But yeah, she's a little bit stiff there. So in terms of ab crunch, you're getting backwards movement like that. Looks fine. You're not getting much forward crunch. So that's maybe one of her biggest weakness, is her sort of torso articulation is maybe a little bit limited. Legs are great though. She can kick up more than 90 degrees, no sweat. She's got an excellent swivel at the waist here. So there's no thigh cut, but that's good because you get this beautiful, like realistic proportioned leg, and it swivels up here. The downside is that you get to see all her unmentionables because of how small this diaper has to be. So you're kind of limited by like aesthetics, but mechanically you can rotate that all day. She can kick back, like look at that. No problem there. And that's a function of this sort of diaper design. A friend of mine who I've been chatting with, a viewer in the channel, describes this as arse continuity. And he says this figure has an excellent arse continuity rating. No matter what you do with her legs, her arse looks proper as it should, Arse continuity. So an arse continuity rating of 10 for Wonder Woman. Thank you, you know who you are. So overall, like that's really good. At the knees, double jointed, pretty awkward looking cut here, but it does the job, everything you would want. No boot swivel, but that's to be expected from a McFarlane. Rotation at the foot, hinge up and down, toes, and a rocker. So it's got everything you want from a McFarlane figure in terms of articulation, except for maybe something of the diaphragm. But in my opinion, a diaphragm cut would have broken up this beautiful look here, this clean sort of V shape of her torso. It would have ruined it, I think. It would have created like a line there. I think McFarlane ultimately, for how you would want to pose Diana, I think he's made the right choice, and he's favoured the look over the movement for her body. It's the right call. You know, before we move off articulation, I just want to show you a figure from a competing line that is held up as the poster child of articulation. And that is this 60th anniversary Avengers Black Widow. I think it's 60th, whatever the anniversary is. This is Marvel Legends Black Widow figure. This is a deluxe figure as well. And she comes with, you know, a whole bunch of heads, which is really awesome, some great accessories. But it's really what everyone's crowing about is the articulation of this figure. You know, she can do the splits and double jointed pinless knees and all this sort of stuff. And, you know, she does have a diaphragm cut, which is really good, and an ab crunch. So she's got really good like torso articulation. Her head kind of doesn't do much because of the hair, but like overall, it's a really comparable figure to Wonder Woman. Maybe Black Widow has a few advantages, but one thing Black Widow can't do is put her legs back. You know, she can kick her own butt, but her legs can't move back because of this hard piece here. So, you know, there are things that Wonder Woman can do that Black Widow can't. So yeah, you know, take that, Marvel Legends. So with articulation out of the way, let's have a look at how classic Wonder Woman fits in with the rest of our collection. So I know personally speaking, the reason I've been hanging out for a classic Wonder Woman for so long is because I want to complete the Trinity, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. And for the longest time, I've been using stand-ins for Diana, but now I have the real deal, the princess herself. So I'm really excited to see how she fits in with my Justice League. So here's what I've chosen for my Justice League Trinity, I should say. This is Rebirth Batman from the Clayface Batwoman 3-pack, and Action Comics 1000 Superman from the Atomic Skull 2-pack. This has just got a lighter blue color scheme, which I really like. And that is the trio, or the Trinity, I should say, that I will have on my shelf. And I think they look absolutely excellent together. This Rebirth Batman is a little bit shorter, but Wonder Woman is meant to be taller than both of Clark and Bruce, so I think they look absolutely exceptional together. So I really couldn't be happier. I know some of you out there have different tastes. I know some of you out there, sort of for your definitive Batman, you prefer the larger looking sort of Hush Batman. I think they look excellent together. Batman is just too tall. You know, this Hush Batman 3 Jokers body is just enormous. Like these legs and that torso just make him absolutely enormous. He's a great figure. He's just too big for the rest of the line. And like this, I think Superman just looks absolutely puny. I know some of you have various other Superman figures. You have many of them on that sort of Hush body, or that infected Superman body buck. One of those is the first appearance Superman in the collector edition. This is the Platinum Chase variant with the red boots. That is on that same infected Superman body buck. I think they look reasonably good together. He is maybe a little bit more classic in look, a little bit more, you know, obviously first appearance. Hush Batman doesn't fit that bill, but some of you might really love Nightfall Batman, you know, in your Trinity. And, you know, that looks pretty good. I think maybe Wonder Woman in her Platinum Chase variant with the yellow instead of the gold, I think she would look excellent with these two. I think that would be a really great looking Trinity. I may pick up the Platinum Chase version myself just to have sort of a more classic looking Trinity, because I think these three could look excellent together. But, you know, there it is. Now let's do some comparisons with some other figures. Let's bring in the Shazam 2 Gal Gadot Wonder Woman. Now, obviously, this is from the film Shazam 2. She's in a more Gal Gadot Snyderverse style costume. I actually think this is a really, really nice figure overall. I really like her skin tone. I think it's maybe the skin tone I would have preferred for the classic Wonder Woman, but I respect that they went a different direction, and that is fine. I think she's got sort of beautiful paint application. She's, you know, really stands out on a shelf. It's not a bad figure at all, but I must say I do like the proportions of the new classic Wonder Woman. I like the head sculpt, obviously, even though this one is quite, you know, accurate to the actress. Overall, I just think she cuts a more heroic figure. So I do like, you know, the new one much more than this one. I actually wonder if they share legs. Do they share legs? I don't think they do. Anyway, I think they look both really, really good, but definitely the new Wonder Woman will be replacing Shazam 2 Wonder Woman in my Trinity, in my display. So that is only good news. Up next, we have the Todd McFarlane designed Wonder Woman, and she's been in my Justice League Dark display for the longest time. Looking at her, Todd McFarlane, he's got a particular aesthetic. It's certainly not my preferred aesthetic for Wonder Woman, and I think this comparison bears out why. I mean, she's just so much more appealing, striking, iconic in every way. I mean, you could probably do a head swap. Their skin tones are not identical, but they're sort of close enough. You might be able to get away with a head swap, but I'm not going to do it because I don't want that head on her body and vice versa. I don't want to mess with her. I think she's great. Next up, we have the Flashpoint Wonder Woman, who's part of the Cyborg Flashpoint Build-A-Figure wave, the Target exclusive wave. This was sent to me by my buddy Nick from the US. Thank you, Nick, for getting me this figure and allowing me to complete my Cyborg Build-A-Figure. I plan on reviewing this figure at some point. She's not a bad figure. I think she's quite accurate to the source material in many ways. Quite a striking figure. A lot of good texture, color, paint. Not too bad at all, but there's no denying the power of this classic looking Wonder Woman in my opinion, and I think the proportions on this new one are better. I think the overall design, the paintwork, just everything is better, so definitely not a substitute. And here we have Donna Troy from the Titans Build-A-Figure wave. That was an excellent wave, and this is an excellent figure. You'll see that both figures have a similar sort of blue wash in their hair, although classic Wonder Woman's is maybe a more subtle paint job, less glossy. I think it looks more natural. Both have excellent head sculpts, really nice detail. I think you'll find one of the big differences, though, is the use of the metallic, pearlescent plastic and paint. I just think brings this character to life, or this figure to life. She really pops, whereas Donna is a lot of sort of flat, molded plastic with not a lot of paint, certainly nothing metallic or pearlescent, so she just looks a little, dull, I guess. That's both in terms of the color scheme itself, the basic design, and also the choices McFarlane has made in terms of paint and type of plastic and what have you. But certainly two great figures that look pretty good together, I think. And finally, I want to do this comparison just to sort of prove a little point that I've been arguing with myself in my own head, over the last week or so, with all this discussion of like price hikes and the cost of McFarlane figures, and without getting into that Infinite Crisis discussion again, go check out my separate video on that if you want me to, spill my thoughts about it. This figure here is Ronan the Accuser from Marvel Legends. He's a Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers villain. Now, this figure, when he released, was $40 US, and this is what he came with. A big hammer. That is it. No alternate heads, no alternate hands, one weapon, certainly much less than you get in the box with classic Wonder Woman, who is not $40 US. So yeah, just a bit of perspective. We pay a lot for our action figures, a real lot of money, especially in Australia where prices are just higher for various reasons, but it's good to sort of bear some perspective in mind and have some context about the money we're spending, what else we could be spending it on, if we were collecting other lines, for example. And I think this is a great example of, it just shows that things are expensive across the board, and something worth bearing in mind. So is this the classic Wonder Woman that DC Multiverse fans deserve, that they've been patiently waiting for, or perhaps clamouring for the better part of 4 years? I think so. This is the Wonder Woman I see when I close my eyes. I do hope we get a rebirth Wonder Woman, maybe a new 52 in the future. That'd be great, but for now, if this is the Wonder Woman that we get, I think most fans will be happy. I think she's generally great looking, well proportioned, excellent accessories. Could have used maybe one more head sculpt with a warrior expression. I would have really loved that, but overall I can't complain. I think she's wonderful. There's some quibbles with the articulation in the shoulders and the paint lines at the ankles, but overall it's just an excellent figure, and I think it's a must own for all DC Multiverse fans. And even at this early stage of the year, I think Wonder Woman is a shoo-in for my best of the year list for 2024. I can't see how she won't be. But if you found this video entertaining, interesting, insightful, or useful, please consider liking it, Give me a subscribe if you haven't. It's a little click for you, but a really big click for me. It really helps my channel get out there, and I'd very much appreciate it. But until next time, happy collecting, and thank you so much for watching.